I just had dinner with Shellenberger last night. He said to me, like, who are the three most powerful people? They're Trump, Elon, and Rogan. They're the three most, the three people who have the most influence. Like Shellenberger will put out a tweet. It'll get far more views than anyone in legacy media, far more views than anything in CNN or what have you.
Yeah, this was called sort of the podcast election.
Yeah.
And
Harris could not. So that's the other thing. I wonder if in the future, to become president, you're going to have to sit down with Rogan for 3 hours. I mean, I knew there was no possible way she could sit down with Rogan. You're telling me she's going to have a 3-hour conversation with someone like an intelligent person? Like, there's no possible way it's literally impossible. She's a moron.
So
she's she's a total moron.
Yeah, she was not someone capable. She didn't have original thoughts. And it was not clear that she is capable of original thoughts.
Well, that's really one of the most charitable things you can say about her. But okay, she's the worst possible candidate she could have run.
No, it's
joy. She was giving you a joy. Imagine that. We have a fentanyl epidemic. We have homelessness. We have massive budgetary deficits. We have a war in Ukraine. We have China threatening Taiwan. We have loose nukes. She's giving you joy.
Well, she was giving us joy until she was warning us about fascism, because that was the closing argument.
And so that's the other thing. That's the other thing that's insane. Like, if you actually believe. These people spent years calling Trump Hitler. And to be clear, I'm no Trump fan. They spent years calling Trump Hitler, but yet Oprah Winfrey charges $1 million to speak against Hitler. Where are the marches in the streets? If you actually believe someone was Hitler, well, yeah, you probably would shoot him. Or you would at the very least protest by the millions in the streets. I didn't see almost any protests. I saw a bunch of fringe Antifa lunatic groups destroying statues. I think they were lying. That's not how people act if they think someone is Hitler.
That's right.
Yeah.
So is that part of, to stay on track with it from a culture perspective, from a free thought perspective, is that the other piece of the puzzle? Was the realization that was all lies? Correct. You look at there was a moment, I think, was it at the inauguration, where you have all these people together and no one's pulling out a knife and stabbing Trump because he's Hitler.
Yeah.
They're laughing with each other.
Yeah.
So that was all bullshit. So therefore, now I'm not going to pretend to abide by the pieties of the woke reign of terror, because it was obviously all lies.
Yeah.
And shame on me for thinking I had to in the first place. How do you think?
No, not the latter. The latter. So that was an important thing. The latter would be, and remember this, mark my words, I've been saying this for years. I never believed any of it. That's what they're going to say. It's so ghoulish. It's so stupid. It's so idiotic. That's what they have to say. I never believed any of it anyway. I never believed any of this stuff. I never believed that we should cut off the breasts of 15-year-olds. I never believed it. 12-year-olds. If you're in the womb, you can't, so that's one thing. I don't think that the distrust of the media was causally related to the shot, to Trump's attempted assassination.
No, that has been brewing for a long time.
It's been brewing.
I mean, actually,
and they brought it on themselves.
It's funny. Gen Z, Jean Twenge's probably been the best sociologist to study Gen Z, I think. And her books have pointed to that Gen Z has the lowest opinion of the media of anything in the hierarchy of things that they should care about. They do not trust the traditional media at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a very, very, very close friend of mine who's the VP at, maybe I shouldn't say the network, but I'll say that, at A&E. And she was telling me, I've had a few drinks, doesn't matter. She was telling me that the problem with reality TV is that everyone thinks it's fake, when in fact it's far more real than people think that it is. And I just thought that was so interesting.
That is interesting. Well, it's
the same thing. It's, it's isomorphic to the fake news and fake news media and the narratives that are constantly being pushed out.
There's a nose. I wonder if one of the things that's happened is because I think also below 30-year-olds, I think a majority of men below 30 voted for Trump. The shift at least among men, of young people.
Yeah.
It's like if he's the new Reagan in our warped 21st century, then we have like a new generation of Alex P. Keatons. And
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is the fact that it's a generation that is actually kind of media savvy. And so they can look at someone like Gavin Newsom and be like, you are the most inauthentic robot, sandblasted person. I don't trust a word coming out of your mouth. And I saw your tongue split at one point, so I know I can't.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah. It's interesting. You know, for years I had Chinese exchange students live in my house, maybe for well over a decade. And they had several commonalities. One commonality, unrelated to our conversation, is I never met a single Chinese person who liked guacamole. And all the people, we had dozens and dozens of Chinese exchange students.
this reminds me of when I waited tables at Trump Castle, by the way,
Really?
during college. I picked up several patterns, one of which was Japanese tourists always ordered orange juice, even with lobster dinner.
Really?
Don't know why, but anyway, continue.
Yeah. Well, no, it's interesting. I didn't know that. But the other thing is, not a single person who lived in my home for, again, well over a decade from China ever watched the news, ever had any interest. It never kind of, or I would speak to them about issues or affairs, nothing. And when you really drill down on this, they just have a fundamental distrust. And
That makes sense.
perhaps because of the system in which they lived.
To that end.
But that's, I think, what's happening now with younger people. They just have a fundamental distrust. And so that's why they're going to podcasts like this. That's why they're going to alternative media.
I did this documentary At the Fork with Lisa about like the way animals are raised for food. You'd like it as a paleo guy. And we went to the Berlin Film Festival and I met a journalist. I can't remember where she worked, but she was from Beijing. And so I asked her, this was like 2016, so this was a while ago. And I asked her, I said, so what's it like to be a journalist in China? Is it like, I mean, we're here in Western Europe. So at the time I was like, we're freer. That's not true anymore. If you're now, maybe maybe you might be freer in Beijing than in Berlin.
In among certain things. Yeah. With like,
but one of the things she said was, well, there's just some things you don't talk about. Otherwise, you're fine. Like, and I think it might have been all kinds of stuff. It was like, you don't criticize the government. Like there was an article in Vogue and that criticized the government. So Vogue was shut down for a month.
Yeah.
So you just don't do that. And then you're fine.
Yeah. So
it was like, oh my gosh.
You're not a journalist.
Yeah. You're
mouthpiece you're pushing forward whatever's morally fashionable from the dominant orthodoxy. That's what you're doing, which is fine. Just say that's what I am.
I think in a world where life is getting materially better for people living in desperate poverty, you can set that aside and say, I don't have to worry about that because I am literally living 3 times better than my parents lived.
So they bartered democracy, voting, etc., for economic prosperity.
It's interesting about this. I think the theory was among people like my beloved Milton Friedman, where freedom and free market, where economic freedom goes, democratic institutions or at least democratic norms, whatever you want,
turned out to be false.
But voting
will
follow, and that turned out to be false.
Yeah.
So it turned out that actually some measure of economic liberty, like private property, ability to start a business and keep some measure of your profits, is super magical, and it lifts hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. And that is so powerful that even in the absence of being able to say, vote out your dictator, you're living so much better. You're like, fine, I don't need to worry about that for now.
Okay, so now I have a question for you. I think this is the essence of the postmodern condition. By what basis do you say that it's wrong to barter liberty for economic prosperity?
Well, I only meant it's wrong in the sense that I don't think that was some choice that was presented. Like,
because it was from on high.
Because basically, as I understand what happened in China, is you had Mao dies. I know that there's people who think he's great in academia, but he was a mass murdering psychopath. So he dies, and this formerly robust civilization has some green shoots that start to pop back up. And what they draw on, I think, is it Deng Xiaoping? I forget exactly, but they draw on essentially the model of Hong Kong, which at that point was the freest economy in the world.
Mm.
And that gives rise to what's known as the special economic zone. So Shenzhen and these other places, they essentially adopt free market, freer, very relatively free markets. Oh, you can have contracts. You can keep what you earn. You can start something and keep it.
Mm.
You can keep your promises that you write down, and some local Communist Party governor won't just steal it all.
Mm.
And that works like magic because people want to. Nobody washes rental cars for a reason, right? Like, if I'm going to keep what I have, I'm going to invest in it. I'm going to put in the effort. And if you're going to take it from me, and I know you're going to take it, well, why should I improve anything? And I don't. That's the tragedy of the commons. So there wasn't some opportunity for political liberalization presented or enabled. There was no French Revolution style overthrow of the dictatorship. It was just a certain level of a kind of enlightened liberalism, liberalization economically that took place. That's my understanding of the history. And then Xi Jinping, in the past 10 years, has started to really like tighten the grips, consolidate power, start to look much more like your classic guy with a thick mustache, but still not as bad as Stalin. Like, it's still like they're still growing, they're still getting more prosperous. But that's the sense in which I don't think there wasn't a like revolutionary trade-off where you got democracy and freer markets. There was just like, oh no, we're still a dictatorship, but
yeah, in fact, almost the opposite, because who's that big buffed guy who issued the apology? He was in a great show. I can't remember the name of this guy.
Michael Cena is it?
He was in a funny show.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so like he apologized in Chinese and all these people. So it was that the desire to have the Chinese market open to Americans changed Americans' behavior. It wasn't that the Chinese bended their values to make them more accessible to what a big theme in my life has been error correction or free markets. I think free markets less so, but a kind of glasnost and perestroika. They don't have it. I think you're going to see a radical realignment too in the world, but I could be wrong about that.
So you have this cultural Maoism starting to wane
in this country,
in America in particular. It's not, and it seems like we exported the woke reign of terror, and now we're like, maybe over the hump, or I hope.
Yeah, remember that it's about 1.5 to 2 years. Everyone is behind us about 1.5 to 2 years.
Like the rest of the English speaking in Western world.
I'm thinking Oceania and the Anglosphere, anywhere in the English speaking world, because this is a neo-colonial export. This is our export to them. So instead of exporting Miranda rights, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, we have exported a derangement syndrome.
Yes, we've exported anti-colonial,
right. And that's why
terror.
That's why we have to destroy the system. That's why we need a guy like Trump. If we lived in a rational, sane world, we would need a Department of Education. We would need to say, well, we need phonics. We would need our institutions to do our thinking for us in a very real sense. But they've been hijacked, because we have cognitive biases.
If you like this clip, you should check out the full video and all the other great content we've got at Dad Saves America. So be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss our new stuff as it drops each week.